Call to order the general session of the County Commissioners of Montgomery County. It's a regular session. It's August 21st, 2018, 6 p.m. To everybody here, welcome. We appreciate you coming. Always welcome to come and see us at our meetings or otherwise. First thing on our agenda, of course, is our invocation. We have the legendary Reverend Ed Lindsay here tonight to pray us into this meeting. And Reverend Lindsay, if you'd come forward, we'd be proud to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's pray. Father, we thank you tonight for the privilege of coming to you. We bring this meeting before you. We pray your blessing upon the commissioners, on the agenda, the discussion, and the actions that will happen. May your direction and your guidance be ours tonight. May every decision that's made bring glory to your name. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Lindsay, thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Woodard.
If you are able, please rise and join us in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Copeland. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Matheny. Thank you. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next item on our agenda is the public forum, and we have had one person that signed up. But prior to opening the public forum, Mr. Woodard, if you'll go through the overviews of the rules and procedures for public forum, please, sir.
Yes, sir, I'll be delighted to. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to comment on county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. This shall not serve as a forum for debate with the Board of Commissioners. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the board and not to staff, the audience, or media. The chairman will open the public comment period. Any person who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and announce his or her name and their physical address prior to making any comment. Any citizen desiring to comment on a matter of public interest within the authority of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners to legislate in an open forum shall be allocated 3 minutes time. Citizens may yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing no more than 2 citizens' time slots. This will allow up to, but not more than, 9 minutes for one person. The county manager shall notify the chairman upon the expiration of the allocated time.
Okay, we've had one person that has signed up, and we'll also ask anyone else after Mr. Vang addresses us if they want to speak. Mr. Ty Vang, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for signing up.
Thank you. My name is Ty Vang, and I reside at 811 Shiloh Church Road here in Troy. Chairman Morris and distinguished commissioners, Mr. Manager Woodard, my name is Ty Vang, and I'm here to let you all know that I'm running for district court judge. This was a position that was created when the legislatures merged Stanley and Montgomery County in late June of this year. When they did that, it created a third position, and that is the position that I'm seeking. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Montgomery County. I graduated from West Montgomery in 1998. I graduated from law school in 2005. Started in private practice in South Carolina in 2008. My wife and I returned home. Since 2008, in 2008, I've been with the district attorney's office when it was Stanley, Anson, and Richmond County, and I've practiced in all 3 counties. I've handled everything from a little piddly speeding ticket to a first-degree murder trial. I'm currently the chief assistant DA in Stanley County. I manage 4 other assistant DAs as well as 6 other staffs in our office. I'm also the liaison for local, state, and federal law enforcement officers who wish to contact our office. I talk about my experience because I believe experience matters. As a district court judge, when you're sworn in on January the 1st, you hit the ground running. You're not allocated a 30-day timetable. You're not allocated a school to see if you know what you're doing. You're making decisions that make impacts in people's lives, whether it's in criminal court or civil court. I think I've got that experience in my 10 years as an assistant DA and currently in my role as a chief assistant DA, as well as when I first started in civil practice. When I was in civil practice, I represented clients both in state and federal court. And when this opportunity arose, we chose to come back. I'm proud to carry with me the support and endorsement of law enforcement in Stanley County, the chiefs of police in Stanley County, as well as the High Sheriff, Sheriff George Burris, I've got their support and their endorsement. That is a relationship that I cherish and that I'm very proud of. We consider ourselves in the DA's office as a resource for law enforcement. We've always made ourselves available. One of the impetus for the merger was the fact that a judge couldn't be found after 5 o'clock when court ended. All of our judges were either from from Moore County or Randolph County, and that's the reason why they put in a residency requirement for this particular position. So I'm a proud Montgomery County native. I ask for your support and your vote come this November. Thank you, Chairman Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Vang. Anyone else would like to address the group at the public forum today? If not, we'll close the public forum. The next thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. Commissioners have had the time to review that. Is there a move to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Got a motion from Commissioner Matheny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wooten. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. The first action item on my report is a budget amendment, and typically those are included in the consent agenda, but I just wanted to speak specifically in regards to this one. The board is very familiar. About 5 years ago, Montgomery County received, at the time, the largest Golden Leaf grant of $3.5 million to buy equipment for Wright Foods. In exchange for that, Wright Foods was going to create 500 new jobs. They had received other grants prior to this large $3.5 million. Golden Leaf grants are tied to jobs, and so they had a baseline of 82 jobs when they got this additional $3.5 million, and they were going to have to create 500 jobs in exchange for that $3.5 million, which in essence was an equipment loan. Montgomery County worked with Wright Foods to identify the equipment they would need to grow their business. The loan repayment period was going to be for 7 years at a very low 1.6% interest rate. If they created the 500 jobs and the job creation deadline was December 2017, then Montgomery County would have been able to retain the $3.5 million plus the 1.6% interest. As I just mentioned, that deadline has come and passed. We went through many struggles with Wright Foods from the very first as trying to identify what equipment was needed. Then as the community well knows, they changed leadership and then they changed management and ownership. But at any rate, the deadline did come and pass. They were not able to create any jobs above the baseline. That triggered a penalty phase. And so instead of receiving the $3.5 million at 1.6%, they had to look back to the very beginning and pay an 8% interest penalty on all the funds received. The ownership of the company made the decision that they would go ahead and terminate the agreement early instead of at the end of the 7 years. And so they have paid us in full the principal and the 8% penalty interest. In total, I think it was $4.255 million that was repaid to Montgomery County. We had collected $1.6 million over the last 3 years in monthly installment financing for that, but they wrote the check for the $2.6 million balance, principal plus penalty. Since they were not able to create any jobs, Montgomery County in turn had to write a check for almost the entire amount back to Golden Leaf. At the end, we were only able to retain the original 1.6% interest on the money that had been paid through last month. So we received $199,349.05. Those funds are restricted by the Golden Leaf Foundation for future economic development loans. And so in essence, it's supposed to be used the same way as the Wright Foods grant, that if someone needs equipment or facilities, we can loan them money in exchange for job creation at a low interest rate. And so we will keep those funds restricted and try to work with local businesses on that. But I just wanted to end this chapter with Wright Foods. The finance statement that you get every month has a fund balance on the bottom. These funds were never included in that amount. It was always restricted money, And so our financial position as far as the general fund is not impacted any. And we did not use any of the money for any loan programs that we were receiving. We kept it all secured and restricted, and now we've just turned it back over to government. So I want to thank CD and the finance office for all their work. Belinda Stewart worked very hard on those equipment purchases and worked with Russ Hollers on filing all the UCCs to keep that equipment protected through all the things. So it was a lot of work that went into it. But unfortunate for Montgomery County that we did not realize the 500 jobs. They still maintain a presence in Montgomery County. Carolina Dairy is doing very well. They're looking at expansion, further expansion. They've doubled the size of the facility in Bisco as far as the operation itself. They continue to do R&D out of Troy here. We've approached them in any way that we could help to bring jobs to Montgomery County, but they have a network in place already across the country of what they do and how they do it. So we will keep the door open and try to be helpful, and but I just wanted to make the board aware of what has transpired and what monies were returned, and that it did not impact our general fund balance. But I'll be glad to answer any questions related to that transaction.
Questions, commissioners?
And as it is an action item, it would be a motion to accept the budget amendment number 3.
Do we have that motion?
So moved.
So moved from Mr. Copeland. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Matheny. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
The last action item I have tonight is acceptance of the state funding assistance for public utilities capital projects. And we have 3 projects, and I'll ask Mr. Hildreth to come forward and just give a brief summary of each of these projects. The process that him and his staff, Matthew Morris, went through to identify the need and the solutions and what we're going to be doing moving forward. I will start out by saying that these 3 projects represent $3.3 million in either grant fund or 0% loan from the state. That was all possible because the Board of Commissioners increased the water usage rates on our medium to high volume customers by $4. We were only eligible for 25% grant funds at our current water rates. The board kept the rate for low where it was at $17 for our small users. The state's benchmark, Chris, is 3,500, 4,000 gallons a month?
5,000 gallons a
5,000
month.
a month. And so that rate had to be increased by $4 to trigger us into this next tier. And we said that without that change, the people of Montgomery County would end up having to pay for these projects through future rate increases, and it was the best step. And so that has come to fruition, as Mr. Hildreth predicted, that raising that rate got us into the 50%. And so each of these awards that the board will be accepting is 50% grant that does not have to be repaid and 50% loan. So we're very pleased that that's come about, and we're very thankful for the work Chris and Matthew Morris have done to date. But Chris, if you will update the board on the chemical feed rehab, Fairway Shores North, and the booster pump station project.
Well, thank you. Just to expand on it a little bit, 2 years ago, we started planning to address the most critical needs. And obviously, these 3 projects are a big part of that. But that foresight by the board for that modest increase has positioned us to leverage about $1.5 million of local money, our money, to commit to completing 9 projects that total $6.7 million that we're able to reinvest in our system. That, together with the alum sludge treatment and the high service pump station and the intake rehab, I mean, it's enabled us to basically rebuild our treatment and transmission system. So a lot of progress has been made and is still being made. But these 3 projects are at the time the most critical. Chem feed is something that Matthew and our staff really wanted to focus on and do a pretty massive project. So we talked to several different engineers engineering companies and got several different, just basically preliminary designs and scopes of work, and it ranged from anywhere from, 150,000 to 2.5 million. Knowing that we had 9 projects and not just 3, we decided that we would back off of that a little bit, and the chemical feed wound up being about $500,000. But what that buys us is time. I mean, it basically totally rehabs all of our chemical feed system, just basically ripping and replacing what we have. It is not a change in process, or it's not exactly what we want it to be, or what, Charlotte Water would want it to be, but it is far and away better than what we have right now. And so that's scoped to about $500,000. The Fairway Shores project is obviously a public health and public safety concern. We started over a year ago making emergency repairs to some, spot repairs out there to some areas, and now we're moving forward with the second phase of really 3 phases, but the second phase of that, which would be to replace the main lines out there and provide fire protection as well. And so that's right at $800, close to $1 million for that project. The BPS 1 and 2 rehab is basically rebuilding our pump stations, the 2 main pump stations after you leave the plant, the one in Mount Gilead and the one just west of Troy here. It basically pumps all the water from the treatment plant all the way to Bisco and Candor, and those 2 pump stations will be, basically we are acquiring more land, building a new pump station right beside that one, same capacity, same equipment basically, just new, no increase in capacity. That's one of the rules. But that's at, the project budget for that is $2 million, so obviously 50% grant, the rest of it 0% interest. And so what we're doing today is what we're asking for is the acceptance of the terms and conditions of the state loan and grant, both of which are state project grants, state project loans, which are funded through the Connect NC bond money a couple years ago, which that's when we started planning and maneuvering and setting up for this. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I know that was a lot of information and really brief about these 3 projects, but that's because there's 9 of them we're working on, but everything's going to in the direction we want it to.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, Chris, on the Fairway Shores, even though the grant is just for the north, Fairway Shores North, the project includes all of Fairway Shores, is that
Our project includes all of Fairway Shores.
And
There
they'll
are
all be
2
done
contracts.
concurrently?
It will be concurrently. The south section is maybe 4 months behind the north section, but they're supposed to be bid at the same time. So, in order to leverage that buying power, basically.
Any other questions? We need a motion to accept the funding. Is that what you're talking about? Is that?
Yes, sir. A motion to accept, or resolution to accept the funding for each project.
We have such a motion.
I'll make that motion.
So moved by Mr. Crisco. Do we have a second? Second. Second from Commissioner Copeland. Are there any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Chris?
Thank you.
Mr. Conway, congratulations. You come to us about that. I think we're a little ahead of the schedule, we told you, but. All right. Mr. Manager?
For the public's benefit, we do have a closed session tonight to discuss under attorney-client privilege communications to discuss with our legal counsel about the Union County IBT. As the public is well aware, the County of Montgomery filed suit against the EMC and the state of North Carolina for the issuance of an IBT certificate to Union County. Montgomery County felt that the state did not adequately and fairly handle that process to ensure the interest of Montgomery County and other stakeholders in the basin were protected. We have been through depositions and all the pre-trial wrangling, but now the court date has been set. We are scheduled and on the docket for September the 11th in Hickory. In the Washington courtroom, they have allocated up to 3 weeks for this trial.
Hickory or Apple?
High Point, I'm sorry. And so as we begin now the trial phase of this, there has been a lot of movement. One of our partners, Stanley County, has settled with Union County prior to the trial date. And so our purpose with meeting with our attorney is to discuss our strategy moving into this trial phase. But other than that, you have all the typical and usual reports from the county staff, and I certainly thank them for all their efforts in serving the public of Montgomery County. But I'll be glad to have them come up to answer any questions the board may have about their report prior to the closed session.
Any questions? If not, I'm going to read this into the record, Mr. Woodard. That pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, A3, the Board of Commissioners will entertain a motion for a closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. General general policy matters may not be discussed in the closed session, and nothing herein shall be construed to permit the public body to close a meeting that otherwise would be open merely because an attorney employed or retained by the public body is a participant. The public body may consider and give instructions to an attorney concerning the handling or settlement of a claim, judicial action, mediation, arbitration, or administrative procedure. If the public body has approved or considered a settlement other than a malpractice settlement by or on behalf of a hospital in closed session, the terms of the settlement shall be reported to the public body and entered into its minutes as soon as possible within a reasonable time after the settlement is concluded. Do I have such a motion?
So move to go into closed session.
Motion for Commissioner Copeland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Matheny. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Listen, we have a motion to return to, out of closed session into general session.
I can make that
We
motion.
got a motion from Commissioner Crisco. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Wooten. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. The Board of Commissioners discussed legal strategy with our attorney during closed session. And we have a trial set for September the 11th to open, scheduled 3 weeks in High Point. Our discussions today were simply about trial strategy. Anybody got anything they want to add? Anything else? Is that all you have, Matthew?
Yes, sir.
That being said, yes, sir, Mr. Crisco.
You opened the bids for the airport thing. Was that last week?
Yes, sir. It was on the consent agenda. Local bidder Nathan Russell, Jimmy Russell's son, was the only bidder. We had no bidders at the first bid opening, had to re-advertise under NC DOT aviation rules. you can award off one bidder after a rebid, and so Mr. Russell had a low bid, I think it was $187,000. It was about 8% over budget. DOT Aviation, I feel confident will close the gap on the funding. There'll be no cost to the county, but the engineers did put in the recommendation to award. So on the consent agenda tonight, the board has awarded that contract to Mr. Russell, and it's about a 90-day lead time on tanks, so there won't be fuel out there tomorrow, but it's well underway now, so the contract has been awarded.
Yeah, I saw that numbers there, but I wasn't sure if that meant it was awarded or.
Yes, sir.
Jack, can I say?
Sir, sure.
I'd just like to thank everyone for the phone calls and the prayers. That's what I love about Montgomery County. You know, we might have our differences, we might live in different places and shop in different places, but when it comes time, everybody pull together, and I'd like to thank Commissioner and Mrs. Matheny for bringing my peaches. I missed the Peach Festival. They made sure that I got some peaches, but I really appreciate all the positive thoughts and the prayers. It means so much to me to be a citizen of this county and to know that I have your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. Anything else? If not, meeting is adjourned.